us what's going on with the TV situation for a number of teams and how it's affecting them.
Nothing great is going on. I would say that the fact that we're a couple, weeks from the start of spring training, and we have fans in, up to a kind of close to a third of the league's markets who are now going to have to figure out, well, where are these games going to be aired? What am I going to have to do come the regular season? I mean, you still got close to 2 months, but it's not the game of musical chairs you want to have happen here. There's this company, Main Street Sports Group, that operates the FanDuel Sports Networks, that's had all sorts of financial problems. They were in a big bankruptcy case that we've gone over on the show before, and they were the partner to 9 major league teams. They basically ran out of cash. They stopped paying teams, including the Cardinals, in December. And there was this renegotiation period in January where the MLB team said, we're canceling our contract, but we'll still talk to you. Let's see if we can work something out here and maybe find a way to come back. It was all contingent on this company, Main Street, getting a buyer, getting more cash into its pockets to be able to pay the teams for these rights. And it basically just hasn't happened in time. So yesterday you had 6 MLB teams formally announced that they are going to MLB's internal broadcasting group. So MLB, which was already going to carry 7 teams before this happened, is now going to carry probably 14, maybe as many as 15 teams in 2026. So the regional sports network world, where teams partner with this third-party company who puts on the games, it's just disappearing. And so you have 6 teams that are with MLB now. A 7th, the Tigers, likely going to go to MLB. They got to work it out a little bit because the ownership group of the Tigers also owns a hockey team, the Red Wings, and there might be some what's the word I'm looking for? Synchronization that they're looking for, synergy in what they do there. And then the 2 that we're really waiting on are the Braves and the Tigers. The Braves seem like they're going to start their own network. I'm sorry, Braves and the Angels. We don't know exactly what the Angels are going to do, but they could end up with MLB as well. So, there's a world in which really only one team doesn't go to MLB from this group of 9.
What does this money look like for those teams? Because that's what we're always hearing. Oh, no, it's in flux. Not sure about our TV deal. Will the money be similar? Is Major League Baseball going to screw the pooch on this one and keep the money and then give it to the higher earning teams? No, I'm kidding. But what does the money look like for them? Will there be a severe drop-off?
Significant drop-off. MLB on its website the other day had a stat that for teams that have already taken a haircut, and I think this is probably encompassing basically the last 3 years, they've, on average, which is an operative term, that means not everybody's at this figure, lost about 50% of what they were making. And so now they're going to lose another sizable chunk. There's a difference between how Main Street and traditional RSNs work versus what's happening if you go to MLB. The traditional RSNs, Main Street, would say, here's a set amount we're going to pay you for your rights fee. This is what the rights fee is worth. And that money's coming in. You can budget around it. With MLB, they give you projections. They say, this is what we think you're going to bring in terms of carriage agreements, meaning what you can sell to satellite companies, to cable companies, and also DTC, direct to consumer, which is just a fancy way of saying streaming subscriptions. There's been a big push inside baseball, and they've done it to get every team available for streaming so that you can watch your team's games locally without having to go get a cable bundle or satellite bundle if you don't want to do it. And so MLB is saying to the teams, whatever you get from streaming, whatever you get from the satellite and cable companies, that's what we're going to pay you. We're not going to promise you're going to get X because we might not bring in that number. And the teams, even beyond that, are just going to make less money. MLB doesn't have the same deals in place with the cable and satellite companies that Main Street did. So they're going to make less money. And this is going to all bleed into collective bargaining, which is going to start up only in a couple months here. We're going to have the league and the union starting to get together to discuss the next CBA. It's going to bleed into the next round of national deals, national TV deals come 2029, and those will be negotiated in 28. So it's local media rights in baseball are going to be something you're just going to keep hearing a ton about, and I'm so happy to talk to you about
it. All right. Isn't this, though, Manfred's dream? Isn't this what he's been talking about? MLB Central, like the NBA, and they can do these just big national deals. But and all the NBA teams still have their local. I know we have the Magic here in Orlando, and they're on FanDuel, Florida, whatever it's going to be. But now, the NBA has these deals, NFL has these. This is kind of Manfred's dream. But what I want to know, Evan, has anyone looked into like the Rangers, okay, for instance, and the White Sox? They started their own network. Did they make more money off that than they did off their previous deals? Because the Braves, right, are talking about maybe starting their own network. So the teams actually, other than Yankees, Cubs, Mets, Red Sox, the big ones, Dodgers make a ton because of sports in LA. But do any of these teams that start their own network, do they actually make more money? Then why wouldn't it stop every team from making their own network?
Well, look, the infrastructure involved, the investment involved, and the time and effort, it's a lot of capital generally, people, money that you'd have to invest to start your own network. I haven't looked enough into it to confidently tell you exactly how those networks have done. I can do that, but what I think is true is that none of them have done so well that they escape this larger RSN problem, which is that, and Rob Manfred's been on record about this, and I don't think he's wrong, that eventually, even for the teams that are doing well, the big market teams, cord cutting is going to start to eat in to the money that they get. It is not something, while the problem has largely plagued smaller market teams thus far, and the Braves are certainly, they have a lot of viewers. They are an exception there. It's something that's going to come for all of them. And so the answer doesn't seem to be, well, every team go out and start your own network. You framed it around, this is Rob's dream to have all the teams inside MLB. There's some nuance there. The dream is to make as much money as possible. That is what they are trying to do at every step of the way. And they'll talk about balancing it with reach. Sometimes you could sign up with a service that will pay you more, but maybe gets to fewer fans. And there is some sort of balancing act there. But the bottom line is the bottom line. What Rob wants is to be able to sell a large amount, or ideally all, of the local rights to potentially a streaming company in a bidding war, or multiple streaming companies. If you can say to ESPN or Peacock, whatever, come 2028, hey, besides the Sunday game of the week, you could also be the local home to 20 markets, 25 markets. There could be a lot of money attached to that, and there could be more money, the thinking is, than would be available with every team partnering on its own with an individual RSN. So what Rob wants is to control local rights through his office. And then the big question becomes, okay, if he gets that control, how is the money divided up? What happens to revenue sharing? Because the big market teams obviously have more valuable rights than the little market teams. And this is where collective bargaining with the players is going to be really interesting, because the players have an input on this. So if MLB wants to change what it does with local media rights, and it does, it's got to go through the union in regards to revenue sharing. And it's a very big jigsaw puzzle that's going to kind of underlie all that we're going to be talking about coming up here.
If the number is only 6, 8, 10 teams that end up coming under the Major League Baseball umbrella, does that work for Major League Baseball? Does that make the money? Or is it something that if they don't get X amount, if they don't get 15, 20, or even 30 teams, which I don't think they'll ever get, is that the only way that this like package system really works to make the most money?
You want as many teams and as many premier teams as possible. You're right to think this way, that if you're trying to say to Netflix, hey, buy a package of 7 or 8 teams, and it's kind of, the Rays, the Marlins, the Rockies, whatever, it's not the star-studded Dodgers, and they might never be involved. You're going to make less money from that. And there's even more nuance here, where you want to have those rights available. Rob doesn't necessarily, the central baseball office doesn't have to take control of that. You just need cooperation, and you need those rights available. Right? So you could still be in a world where the 20 individual clubs control their local rights, and they just agree, okay, we will all come together and sell this to Netflix. I think the commissioner's office looks at it rightly, that it's a lot easier if they have final say over what to do with those rights. And that is a key thing to understand here about baseball. Local rights are controlled by the clubs. The commissioner's office does not control them. He'd like to.